Welcome, welcome. We are in session 4 of our 4-part series with global women leaders, picking their brains about how to do business in 2020 and beyond. And I'm excited to share this segment with you about management, resources, and recommendations. So we're going to go anywhere that managers go. If you have a question or a comment, please go ahead and add that. We'll get to as many of those as we can. And right now, I would just like to start by saying to you, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you for pursuing the dream that's in your heart to manage or lead something or somebody. I always say we are all leading somebody. Somebody's watching your life, even if you don't know it. Somebody's watching what you're doing, and they're deciding, am I going to do it like her? Am I going to do it like something else? Or is that good? Or is that bad? How can I do this my own way? And what we're going to do here during this hour is we're going to talk about some of the management recommendations and resources that have been helpful to us. And as you've experienced through this whole series, which started with how to launch and then went into how to attract your ideal clients, and then we talked about social media marketing, and all the way through we've been hearing the necessity, the urgency for you to be authentically you, for you to do this the way that is right for you to do it, and how some people have had success doing completely opposite things of each other. They'd say, don't ever do that. Well, don't ever do that, but they've been successful. So the most important thing is for you to put on your own thinking cap and to say, what I'm hearing here applies to me and my situation. What do I want to put into effect and apply starting today? So with that, I'm going to welcome our first guest here today. And welcome to, hang on one second here. There we go. Welcome to Alicia. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you here, Marnie.
Where is your body located today?
So normally I would be in Atlanta, Georgia in the States, but I'm actually in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now.
Okay.
So even more of a time zone difference.
Right. And of course, for those of you who are not aware of what this is all happening, these are all WEF speakers at the Women's Economic Forum in Bangalore, India. So we're excited to have you with us, Alicia. Welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Alicia is the CEO of Equilibria, Inc., the best-selling author of the world's first book on business infrastructure, a podcaster and Lean 60 consultant. Her website is aliciabutlerpierre.com. Okay, Alicia, so tell us a little bit about, just very briefly, your background in business infrastructure. So
Yes.
Really, the world's first book on it? Really?
Yes, really. And that's actually a blessing and a curse, Marnie. A blessing because there aren't a lot of people who talk about it, so there isn't a lot of competition per se in that space. A curse because there aren't a lot of people talking about it. So it means having to put forth that much more of an effort in getting it out there to the masses.
I love that. I love that this came up because it actually is a blessing and a curse to have an original idea, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you think about all the inventions and all the people who worked so hard to the point where now all of us have a cell phone, where all of us drive a car, where all of us have all these things that weren't even there 100 years ago. It wasn't even there.
Right.
now
Right.
Everybody's got to have one. So as you were beginning, what was one of the things that you did in a way of managing this new business idea that you had, this new book idea? What did you do in the area of management that you'd like to pass to the listener today? And what could they maybe learn from either something you did really right or something you did wrong and changed up?
Well, one thing I always encourage people is when you are starting any new venture, whether it is a new business, whether you want to write your own book, self-publish your book, or any type of project or endeavor that you embark upon, it's so important that you realize that you're not an island unto yourself. You have to have help. And so one of the first resources that I'd like to share with everyone is, if you aren't already familiar with it, is Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. So let's just take my book, for example. Had it not been for Fiverr, I would have easily spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars trying to get my book from idea to an actual physical book. And it really took having to rely on other people who've been down that path before and writing out a listing of all of the different milestones and things that I would have to to get done in order to go from, again, idea to finished product. And Fiverr was great because they have resources available to you around the world who can do graphic design work, who can actually lay out your book, who can actually do proofreading of your book. There are even people who can write summaries of your book that you may want to include on the back cover or somewhere on the inside of your book. So just to give you an example of how I leverage Fiverr in producing my book, all of the illustrations in my book are original illustrations. There's 71 illustrations in my book. Every single one of those were done by an illustrator in Serbia. Wow. The person who did my index for my book, she's in Nigeria. The person who actually physically laid out the book to have it ready for print, she's in India. So it took this dream team of people. And then there were editors. I didn't have my editors through Fiverr, but you certainly could get those types of resources through Fiverr. So that's one of the first resources that I'd like to share with everyone.
That's so awesome. We're going to have you come on again in a little bit and do a little bit of a roundtable about this. Right now, before we leave this and before I follow up, I want to just tell you guys that I use Upwork.com in a very similar way to Fiverr and find outsourcers there, again, from all over the world who can help me to actually get whatever done I need to get done. So basically, I'm going to kind of narrow this down. Your strategy is delegation.
Yes, absolutely. You can't do it all. And it would be foolish to try to do it all yourself.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit earlier in this series. I want to bring it up again now because it's really important as a leader to identify the parts of the work in your idea, your business, your mission, whatever it is, the parts of the work that only you can do and the parts of work that you can actually delegate, supervise, and get done without you actually doing it. As a leader, you have only so much capacity. And so if you spend all your time learning how to do ebook layout, let's say, you are not doing what you were created to do. Feedback on that.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The learning curve would have been exponential for me if my mantra with a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Of course, if we all sat down and tried to educate ourselves about how to build a website, how to publish a book, we're all smart people. We can all sit down and read books and take online courses and figure things out. But to your point, Marnie, is it the best use of your time if there are other people who are already experts and can get it done in a fraction of the time that it would take you to get it done?
Right. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of the way that I think about it myself is this way. I think, is this thing that needs to get done something I want to go into business doing? Like, do I want to learn how to do this so well that I can go into business and offer it to other people? Or if not, I'm going to delegate it.
I love that. That's a great way of thinking about it.
Awesome. Alicia, stay with us. I'm going to bring you back in a couple minutes. I want to bring into the room here. I'm sorry, I got Alicia's thing up here yet, but I want to bring Sheree up right now. Sheree, where are you? Where's your body sitting?
I am in South Carolina in the USA.
Oh, we've got all USA girls this hour. That's what we've been all over the world. I think second hour we had everybody from Australia to Middle Asia all the way back to the US. Good. And you are the executive director and founder of Second Chance Community Outreach. You're the host of Courageous Conversations radio show and Defining Moments author, transformational life coach, and speaker. So Sheree, as you come to this conversation right now, what is one of the most important things that you could share to someone who's either newly managing or leading an organization, or somebody just, maybe they just possibly haven't heard that what you're going to share?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. There's so many things. Well, when I was preparing for this interview, Marnie, I pulled out this book, this really torn and tattered book.
Loved the book.
And it is very loved. And it is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's Dale Carnegie. It is my first book when I got into management that I still obviously refer back to now. And I think it's so important that we build relationships. For me, I'll tell you the blessing for me now in business as I look back over my journey is all of the relationships that I was able to cultivate. But now I have the opportunity to really leverage each one of those relationships. It is so imperative that we take the opportunity and just continue to build those fabulous relationships, but also know how to utilize them. I refer to them as my toolbox. So you guys were just talking about delegating. That was the very first lesson I learned when I was in my banking career, how to delegate, because I was this individual that thought if I didn't give it to someone else, that no one else was going to do it the way I was going to do it. But it was very depleting, very depleting. And as women, we often drain or empty our own cups, and deplete ourselves. So I'm big on conserving energy. It's funny, we were talking about how our morning got started, and I said I was well rested, but I had to learn how to do that.
Absolutely. And so for you, what would be the management strategy that's in there for us? Because you're talking about relationships. So building relationships, leveraging those relationships.
Right.
And as a manager, how is that different from an everyday person? Let's say a school teacher. How is it any different in management?
I love that you posed the question that way, Marnie, because I used to live wearing different hats based on the particular environment I was in. For instance, if I was at home, I wore a different hat. If I was at work with my staff, that was a different hat. If I was volunteering, obviously, or serving on a board at my local community college, that was another hat. If I went to church, Marnie, that was another hat. And so I felt like I was, it's almost like a puzzle piece of who I was. And so what I would say is, bring your most authentic self to whatever environment that you're in, so you don't feel like you're so scattered. So from a management, whether it's a teacher or a mom or a business owner, be your best self, your most authentic self. Stay in your lane. I think that's what you guys were really tapping on before. Know your own strength and leverage that. It doesn't really matter what roles you're playing or what activity that you're performing. As long as you know that your own strength is A, B, C, D, leave E, F, G to somebody else, but identify those people to do those things.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to bring you back in just a minute. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. I want to share my screen right now and show you a, let's see here. Where are we? There we go. Sorry about that. Give me one moment to share this screen here. I want to share with you a screen of a 4-block. And this is what I use in a management role to identify what is really important. And I use this when things are crazy, insanely busy, and I don't quite know how to identify what's the most important. So this is what I call, this is my version of the 4-block. And of course, the 4-block probably came from a baseball analogy to begin with, but I couldn't really relate to home runs and all that. So I put them on here for my husband's benefit. But for me, high effectiveness, low cost. Is it high effectiveness, high cost? Is it low effectiveness, low cost? Is it low effectiveness, high cost? So this is one of the management tools that I use. You can get it if you go over to Marnie.com. It's just right there. It's just right there on the front page over here on this side and all those freebies. So as we come back now, I'd like to bring you ladies on, and I'd like you to just address what is your version of the 4-block? How do you identify what to do when, what's most important, what's least important? So let's go with you, Alicia, first.
Oh gosh. I've learned to use index cards. And I got that idea from a book that I read called Write It Down, Make It Happen by Henriette Klauser. And I read this book last year, and it has since become one of my favorite books. And although it's not necessarily a business book per se, I definitely apply it to business. But in the book, she talks about different techniques that she has used or some of her clients have used. And one of her clients talked about using index cards. I've tried vision boards. I've tried to use things like Trello. I've tried using Microsoft Outlook and entering in all of my tasks and from there prioritizing things. But honestly, I've found that using index cards and just putting things that I know are very realistic to accomplish on that particular day, that's all I write. That's it. Now, if there isn't some, and I place a check mark next to each thing as I complete that particular item. If there is something that I have not been able to address or complete that day, I just write it on the index card for the next day. I wake up every morning. That's literally one of the first things that I do. And it just kind of helps set the course for what I need to get done that day.
Awesome. So you're addressing the topic of scheduling, kind of how you
So
schedule your tasks. Yeah.
Right. So when it comes to trying to figure out what needs to be done, what's most important, I actually use a desktop calendar. I'm very visual. So using things digitally for me personally, I've found it doesn't work because if it's not always in front of me, if it's out of sight, then it's out of mind. But I use one of those large desktop calendars, and that's how I start to plan out all of the different things that I want to accomplish. And then the prioritization comes in actually filling things out on daily index cards. That's what works for me.
Okay, so you guys are going to get like probably the whole spectrum here. I can't wait to hear what Sheree has to say. But so Alicia, I really love your idea in that index cards are very you can even have 30 of them and be putting them in order and moving them around like that. A Post-it notes is another way to do that same kind of thing. I for 10 years was a pinch hit speaker. And so the only way I was running a restaurant, retail store, finishing homeschooling my kids, writing books. And the only way I would go take a speaking event for 10 years was if the speaker had to cancel at the last minute and I could go. And so I had this whole 3-ring binder and it was full of Post-it notes of all the like talks and stories and illustrations and Bible verses and all the different things that I might put into a talk. And so when I would get the call, here's the topic, I would just whip through that book. I would pull out the Post-its that worked for these topics. I would have all of these like a big, huge mess on the floor in my hotel room before I went. I would be organizing them in the order I was going to say it for this session. And then I'd get back and I'd like, okay, what's next session? So when we have small pieces like either a Post-it note or a card, it is so manageable. You can just move the pieces.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Okay, stay with us. I'm going to bring you back here in just a minute. And before I bring Sheree in, I actually want to share my screen again because a tool that I found to use online, and it's kind of interesting that, did I just chop myself out of here? No, I'm here. Sorry about that. It looked like I went away. So are you guys able to see me right now? Can you see me? Yeah, okay, good. Let's see if we can share my screen now. I'm so sorry about that. So I'm going to try this one here. There you go. Can you see the Kanban Flow right now? Okay, so this is my Kanban Flow. And so these are all across the top here are all my categories with all the things that are down underneath here. So whenever I get to a category that I want to dig into, I can just go here and all of my Post-it notes or cards really are inside of this. And so you can see that I've got all kinds of stuff going on here. This is a free service. It's called Kanban Flow. And I just wanted to introduce you to that because that's kind of what we're doing during this hour, sharing some management strategies and resources. So I will put that on the screen in just a minute. First, I want to just bring Sheree back and I want to get you launched, Sheree, on sharing with us how you decide out of all the many things there are to do in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. How do you decide what you're going to do today?
Well, an octopus, if you will, that I understand that opportunities don't go away. They just go to the next person. So I'm big on being ready for the opportunity, the next big opportunity. And back to my book that I shared with you guys earlier, one of the things in there that I learned that if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. I believe that wholeheartedly. So, but as a practical application, I am a lover of my calendar, as Alicia was stating earlier as well. And with my calendar, I put in there every day, it's listed what I need to do. If that is a conference call that I need to have, if that's a face-to-face appointment, if that's a Zoom call, whatever it is that I have going on, if that's something with my granddaughter, London, it is on there. It is registered in there, and I call them call blocks. So I block out a certain amount of time for which I need to accomplish certain tasks. I also like my notepad. I'm a thought leader, and so I often have thoughts, and you're busy and you're on the move and you don't want to miss something. So for me, I utilize my notepad and just jot things down so it can be a reminder for me to go back to something if I'm in the midst of something, accomplishing something else. So that would be my response to that, Marnie.
Yeah, excellent. Really good. So I'm going to ask you, when you're thinking about your schedule, do you, when you're scheduling, and everybody will be different this way, when you're scheduling, do you leave any margin between appointments or blocks, or do you just pretty much lock it all back to back to back to back?
No. Because there's always something that comes out of left field. I always leave a break or a gap in there, because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to need that window of opportunity for something else. So that's how I traditionally do it. But I have certain dates, obviously, where I prioritize, or quote unquote, I have a routine. It's like when we get up in the morning, ladies, we have our way of how we get acclimated for the day. And likewise, I treat my calendar the same way. And I'll tell you why. I mentioned earlier about keeping our cup full, conserving our own energy for just mental and health. As business owners, it's excruciating to be pulled in so many different directions. Business is not our entire life. We still have family and friends and ourselves. So how do we even incorporate self-care and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as well? So that's why I leave that gap in there, because there's always something that comes up. Life just happens.
It does. It does. So Alicia, how about you?
Same for me. And here's where things get a little interesting for me, because I always say I play in the digital as well as the analog world. So like Sheree, I used to use a calendar, but again, I moved to the index system. Another reason why I use the index cards is because I can tear it up at the end of the day and throw it away.
Oh, I love Feel that. Really good.
So it really feels like I've accomplished something, and I don't have these volumes of old planners that just pile up that I feel guilty about getting rid of.
I'm guilty for that.
Yes, and I also use so digitally, I use a tool called Acuity. Are you all familiar with that one? So that's what I use, because I also have a podcast. I do consulting calls. And like you were saying, Sheree, you were mentioning the blocking out time for different Zoom calls. We're all probably, we're close to becoming Zoombies if we haven't already. So now that we are really in a position where we're almost forced to do as much as we can digitally, it's been even more important to have that digital scheduling system, just to make sure that I don't miss anything important.
Yeah, I use 2. Let's just move over to that then. I use 2 online digital calendars. I use one for my paid stuff, and I use a separate one for my free stuff. And they both work with my Google Calendar to see, is that space open, is it not? And you can do like, I only ever want to do like coaching calls on Monday and Thursday afternoons or whatever. You can set those kind of schedules up, as well as you can have it just say, anything that's open on my Google Calendar, I'll take an appointment during that time. Sheree, what do you use for your calendar? Do you have an online calendar that you open up to the public?
I use Calendly, actually.
Calendly.
I use Calendly for the radio show. And so that's what I use for that.
Awesome.
And it's really a catch-all. So whenever, whatever's available in there, they can pretty much book it.
Awesome. The next one I want to talk about is what are you using for your meetings? So this right now is StreamYard. I switched recently. I was using BeLive TV for my online video broadcasts to Facebook. But with BeLive TV, I could only broadcast to one location. With StreamYard, I'm able to broadcast to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, which I love. And then they also have the opportunity, you can apply to also stream live to LinkedIn at the same time, which is really cool. That is an application process. And during COVID, of course, everybody Google, LinkedIn, everybody's kind of backed up as far as customer service goes. So you just expect that it'll take longer than usual to hear back about those kind of things. But I really like, for my live streaming, I use StreamYard. And then for my one-on-ones that I'm doing with coaching clients, with intake for womenspeakers.com, whatever it is, with those kind of things, I've moved to Google Meet. Google Meet has really lowered the bar of how difficult it is, how easy it is for people to get on to something. You don't have to download anything. It's very, very simple to use, and I'm loving Google Meet. So, Alicia, how about you? What are you using when you meet people online, face-to-face? What are your go-tos?
I use Zoom.
Zoom.
And it's funny because Zoom has been pushed to the forefront of virtual conferencing platforms. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, and he said, well, I wonder, of all of the tools that are out there, why is Zoom so popular? And I said, well, it's probably because it plays so nicely with other tools. Right. So for example, I know this is true also, Sheree, I think with Calendly, with Acuity and as well as Calendly and so many other platforms, the minute someone books an appointment, it automatically schedules them in Zoom as well. So it just being able to have all of that automated, it saves so much time. So Zoom, I think that's why Zoom has become so popular, because it integrates so nicely with so many other tools that people are already using. But another thing that I've been finding that my clients like to use is Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all are familiar with that one. So that's another application that I've been using as well.
Sheree?
I would just piggyback off that. I am a definite user of Zoom. I use that for everything, quite honestly. I use it with my own team, but I also use it with some of the boards that I'm affiliated with as well. So primarily Zoom. I, like you, when I started my radio show or talk show, it was a talk show, and we kind of migrated to radio, but we started on Facebook Live using Be Live. And obviously there were a lot of hiccups with Be Live, and now we have obviously since moved on from there. But I love Zoom. And but another one I wrote down for the like, a lot of people are doing podcasts today. So obviously we're recording our radio shows as well, or perhaps this as well. And with Zoom, I love it because it gives you both audio and video, and you have that option to leverage it. But Anchor is another one. You have Spotify with all of these podcast apps as well, to be able to leverage that content and that messaging, and then put it on social media, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, and do more with less. I love the streamlining that she was saying about the automation. Who has time? We were just talking about that. So another resource that comes to mind is Hootsuite. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that when it comes to posting and staying, keeping your audience engaged as well with what you have going on. Because you know, it's like you have to be a robot and an octopus all at the same time in this environment to stay connected to your audience.
Well, can I pay you, Sheree, for doing such a lovely segue into the next question? So, with all this social sharing, I use Canva multiple times a day, usually. How about, is that you guys' favorite tool?
I love Canva. Yes. For everything, too. For everything. In fact, I'm going to be releasing a devotional, personal devotional by the end of the year that was supposed to occur, or was on my calendar to be released December last year, and life happened. So I postponed it. But I use Canva just to set that up. Canva is amazing.
It is.
Okay, so I'm going to let us each share one of our favorite things about Canva, and then we're going to submit this and see if they'll use it as a commercial. No, just kidding. Okay, one of my favorite things that they have so far, they've just added recently a way to resize. So when you get your first social post, you can resize it. And I'm actually going to put here on the screen. These are the sizes that I resize to, and this covers pretty much everybody. So the first one is 1270 by 720. That's going to be your basic like the image that we're seeing on our screen right now it's kind of the oblong image. So that's going to be for Facebook, for Twitter, for LinkedIn. A lot of places like that are going to be needing that. Then the next one you have the 1270 by 1270, which is the square. And that's going to be what you're going to use at Instagram mostly. And then I'm going to put these up here. And then the last one is 720 by 1270. So if you can just memorize these two numbers, actually, you've got all of your sizes so that you can resize. Your 720 by your 1270 is going to be your Pinterest or your Facebook story, the tall, skinny one. And this is just so new at Canva. And it's like, oh, I'm so proud of them for helping us like this, because you can typically, I'll start with my main oblong one, the 1270 by 720. I'll start with that one, and then I'll have them resize it. They just take all of your components over. You can just stretch and move around to make it fit the new size. And all three of my main sizes are ready to go. Then when I'm ready to post, I just go straight I do all of my Facebooks, and then I go straight to Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, and I'm done. It's just done. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, so let's go ahead. Sheree. What is one of your favorite Canva things?
I love it all.
I know. I love it all too.
It's like, how do you pick one thing? I use Canva religiously, especially for when I'm promoting my guest speakers on the radio show, because you can upload obviously their headshots and so another one, not to pull away from Canva, but I use it along with Canva. It's a website that is entitled Remove Background, and I believe background is like
I have to tell you, Canva does it. Canva does it now. I know, it's one of their new things. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of Canva. They totally listened. They listened and they watched and they said, what are people leaving to come back? So when you go to Canva, I'm going to just ask real quick here to let me pull it up so that I can just tell you exactly how you go. In fact, let me do a screen share real quick, ladies, and just because I want you to know this, but I want everybody to know this.
Good.
All right. So loving Canva. So what they have here, when you come into your own account here, there's all your designs here, which is awesome. So you can use anything you've ever used. You can also make your own templates here. But what I was talking about before is when you want to create your designs in this custom sizes here that you're going to be able to ready to post everywhere, you just go here. And then whoever you pull up, you're just going to see some of the stuff that I've been working on my left-hand side here. Just give it 10 seconds, probably less. And in your uploads, it keeps track of all the things you've uploaded lately. So let me just go down to Barb. And what you do is you just go under effects here, remove background, watch this.
What?
The magic, the magic of Canva at work. Takes about 12 seconds, maybe 15. And then all of a sudden her background's going to be clear. So hang on, just maybe 30.
Okay, there it is.
Oh, look at that.
I know.
Now, is this a paid version or the free version as well?
I do ask that, Alicia.
Yes. I do have the paid version. And to me, you guys, it is so totally worth it. It saves me so much time to just have it like that. So
well, you just eliminated another step for me that obviously I wouldn't need to do.
Exactly. Right. And it's just it's so I actually had for 10 years, I had an artist that I paid to remove the background every single show, every single week, at least 2 times a week. I would pay him to manually remove the background. This is how far we've come. I love living now. Okay, Alicia, what do you love about Canva?
I like you and Sheree. I love everything about Canva. Canva is another shortcut whenever you are stuck trying to think of, well, what's the creative, cool way of coming up with a graphic to promote something, for example. I use Canva religiously for what I call quotables. So I have a podcast, and I always like to take a quote from the guests that I've interviewed and just put it, put that quote over a really cool image. And Canva just makes that so easy to do. I also use PowerPoint though, because I've found that there's some things that are just easier and quicker for me to do in PowerPoint as opposed to Canva. So I use a combination of the two, but I also use Canva again if I know that I want to do a promotion on my book and I'm just stuck about what the design for the flyer needs to look like, and I don't want to have to pay a lot of money to a graphic designer. Canva already has so many templates. That's the thing that I wanted to mention. You were talking about the different dimensions, Marnie, but I know in Canva, you can actually start searching for Instagram templates, Twitter post templates. I've also designed my social media banners on your profile. You can also do that in Canva. So all of my social media banners have been created in Canva.
Beautiful.
Actually, book covers. I mean, you can do anything in Canva now. It is, they have taken this into their own new realm of excellence. All right. You mentioned right there something and I lost it. Rats. You mentioned something that I wanted to segue into and I lost my train of thought there. Oh my goodness. What was it?
Sheree or me or
no, it was you, Alicia. It was one of the very last things you said. Drat, I'm so sad that I lost that.
We were talking about
templates. Yeah, let's go with templates next. Good. So templates. I just encourage you to use templates for every single last thing you do. Use email templates. If you don't know how Google allows you to create templates. Do you guys know this and use templates in Google? Okay, so I think I'm going to share my screen real quick again. Sorry about this, because this is huge. Here we go. When you compose something here, I can go down over to my right-hand side. I'm going to make it the whole screen here so you can see it. I'm going to go over to my right-hand side and I'm going to pull this up and it gives you an option for templates here. So this was what you guys got about your interview today. And because we had so many to do, Max just created this here and it just outlined everything. All we had to do was change the time, change the links, and we were ready to go. Press send and you go. If you want to use a different template, you just scroll down. And if you want to create a template, you make this and then you scroll to the bottom. Whoops, sorry about that. You scroll to the bottom. It is a little hiccupy that way. And you save the draft as a template. If you want to rename one of your existing templates here, and if you want to just create a new one, you just go save as a new template. And that is how easy it is to use email templates. I know this saves. So I used to have these in Word documents and copy and paste everything. However you have to do it, use templates for everything. So at Canva, of course, you can use some of their templates or you can create your own. So like for my radio show, I have my templates, my oblong, my square, and my tall templates already made up. All I do is change out the image, the title, the name, and you're ready to roll. So templates save so much time. Sheree, do you have a template that you just love, something that you use over and over and over and over?
Well, we were just talking about the radio show. And so obviously just getting my guest headshot. And then I try to, though, tweak the background based on whatever our topic is to make it relevant and connect. Mm-hmm. And people, they get bored really, really quickly, too. And the attention span is so short. So it's really, you got to be an entertainer as well. It's amazing being a business owner. It's really, it's a lot.
So when it comes to radio show too, you want to have some kind of a format going on. You don't want to reinvent the wheel every week.
Right.
You want to have some kind of a template where you know how this is going to go. You know you need advertisers, or you need music, or whatever. And you don't want to have to be thinking all this through every single week. You drive yourself crazy.
No. I definitely don't do that. I have that sketched out. However, I always look for opportunities to pivot.
Yes. Absolutely.
Relevant and engaging. So I'm actually, really curious, Marnie. What are some tips you have from that perspective? There may be some listeners that are thinking about starting their own podcast. what do you use best for your show to keep it relevant and,
Yeah. So I think the most important thing, and we've been talking about this during this whole series, is understand who you are, first of all, and then who your audience is. So you're not going to be able to please everybody, and you can't become somebody else. So you have to really niche those two things down and then together. And once you have that, then, and I've been talking about mission vision training at Marnie.com. You guys can get this mission vision training and just take it and understand what you're doing before you get going, because you can lose so much time just shooting, shotgun out there. Just get very get very targeted, and figure out what you're supposed to be talking about. Then once you know what you're supposed to talk about, then all you do is you just find people who are talking about that. Who is the person who wrote the book on that? Who's the person who's in the news on that? Who's the person who you just went to this conference and met 22 people like that? That you just have this limitless number of people. But what you don't want to do is just have such a broad, I think where you get into trouble and you lose listenership is when your audience, it's too broad. They have no idea what to expect. Last week we were talking about cooking, and this week we're talking about how to make shoelaces out of, toilet paper. Terrible example. Don't ever have me think on my feet. No. But honestly, I think the beautiful thing with a template or with a mission and vision statement or with a business plan, all of these things, they're the launch pad that helps you know what to say no to and helps you know what to say yes to. And then, yes, I totally agree that once you have this foundation laid, wow, just go have fun, enjoy it. It just gives you so much freedom, and you aren't losing your audience as you go. Love it. Alicia, do you have a template that you love?
Yes, but quickly, I would like to address what Sheree was just asking about, because I have a podcast as well. So the way I'm able to keep it fresh is my podcast is actually structured into seasons, and every season has a different theme.
Gotcha.
So that's something that I've done. The template that I use, I actually have several templates that I use, but I'll stick with the podcast. For example, there's a template that I have within Acuity where it's the same questions that I'm asking each guest as part of that intake process. But there's another template that I use to pre-screen people, because just because you sign up doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make a great guest, that you're actually in alignment with what we want to talk about.
Oh, that's so key.
The tool that I use for that is called WooFoo, WUFOO.com. And it's free. There is a paid version, but the free version, you actually can do quite a bit. You can create a form, but then you can actually take that form or that template, and you can take that code and embed it into your WordPress website. So that's what I use first, as a first line of defense, if you will, to have people go there. If they fill out the form, it allows me to actually look at what they would want to talk about, and from there determine whether or not they actually would be a good guest. Then I send them the link to book the interview date and time through Acuity.
Beautiful. So just before we jump off of this topic I want to go back to the word forms, because forms are just huge. If you are trying to start a Facebook group, get an entry form so that you can identify if these people really belong in your group or if they're just scammers or whatever. Forms are just huge, and it's a beautiful way to do templating now, is you have your forms that are going to bring the content in the same exact order every single time. So you can even move that into an Excel or a spreadsheet and sort it and, rank it and things like that too. So that's fantastic. We are almost out of time. Wow. And so I know this went so fast. So I want to ask each of you for a final thought. We've covered so much ground. Sheree, as we've been going, has something in particular come to your mind that you thought, I wish I just had time to tell them blank?
It's so ironic that you asked me that, and I can thank Alicia for this thought. I was thinking about my dream team. She mentioned that in one of her responses, and how important it is to have a solid team that's in alignment with your vision, your goal, your purpose in life, your tribe. And I am so grateful for this opportunity, Marnie and Alicia, to have been with both of you, and of course, Dr. Habib, who is a leader of WEF. This is absolutely amazing. Women, it is our time. My final word would be know your worth. We are treasures. The time is now. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to bring Alicia back one more time. Same question for you. What would you like to say that you didn't have a chance to say?
I wanted to mention leancanvas.com because it also provides a template, but it's so much more than just a template. It's almost like a worksheet, Marnie, because whether you're thinking about starting a new business, writing your first book, your idea for your podcast, any new endeavor that you want to start, try downloading that worksheet. It's a one-page worksheet. It is so valuable in helping you go through that ideation process and really hone your idea and figure out actionable steps for making that idea a reality. But as Sheree said, this was awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Marnie. It's been great. And I would just say, if there's, for anyone who's listening, if there's something that you've been debating over and just trying to figure out whether or not you should or you shouldn't, just get started.
Yep, absolutely. So can you see the screen? Did I spell that right? Leancanvas.com?
Yeah, that is
right.
Correct.
I don't know about that, so I'm going to totally check that out.
You're going to love it. I promise you.
I love it. I love everything like that. So. Oh, well, Alicia, thank you so much. Thank you for your participation in WEF, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marnie.
Awesome. And thank you guys for being here. This has been so fun. We're not quite done yet, but getting really close. We've shared a lot of stuff here. I want to share one more thing with you. I'm going to share my screen again. And this is over at Marnie.com on the front page. If you go to the front page on the left side here, there's a bunch of stuff you can get for free. And one of them is my prioritization calculator. And I just wanted to run through this with you real quick. There's more here, but what it is it's just this. It's really like a mathematic calculation. It is results divided by investment equal priority. Results divided by investment equal priority. And you can remember that like rest in peace, RIP. Results divided by investment equal priority. And you can download this at Marnie.com for free. It's right there as part of the free resources. And then also, just so you know, there's a whole bunch of private resources back here for members. And you are welcome to join us if that ever makes sense to you. But I wanted to just spend a moment more on this RIP, results divided by investments equals priorities. So as a leader, you are going to get to the point where you have so many good choices. You've got great ideas. You've got opportunities. And you're like, I don't know how to decide. I can't decide. And you've used the 4-block, which is kind of my basic starting point, because usually most things can be identified out using the 4-block. But even if after you've done the 4-block and you're like, I don't know, I've got some real winners here and I do not know how to identify what to do. One time I did this and I thought they were all very close in, value. And I realized that there was an as well as there was a complete absolute loser just by using the RIP calculation. So that's what I'd like to leave you with today. I hope that you got so much value out of these interviews, and especially this one right now, that you've joined us. So thank you so much. I'd love to have you follow me, subscribe at YouTube and any of the social networks. If you go to Marnie.com, right on the front page, right under that top freebie stuff are all my links. You can follow me at your favorite social channels, and I would love to connect with you there. To all of the ladies who joined us for this series, you Global Women Leaders, thank you so much. And for all of you who attended and who share this around, thank you to you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope to meet you again soon here, there, in the air. Okay, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.